Okay, the title of my talk today is Childhood Patterns, or Sankhara. So I was supposed to go to Costa Rica 2 weeks ago for my family's dearest friends' family reunion. And our flight was through Houston, and it was on the same day that Hurricane Beryl hit. So our flight was canceled, and we couldn't get there. We were given, a few options of ways to still keep trying, but ultimately we decided to cancel the trip, and luckily we had insurance. But the childhood pattern I was looking at in relationship to this event was this sense of alarm that I have when something goes wrong or not as expected. It's something I've known about myself and within my body and mind, small things, big things. I tend to feel a really large vibration or ripple effect in my body. And it's not just my mind. I can't tell which is my body and which is my mind. I have this very, visceral feeling with those types of changes. And it hasn't ceased to this day. Something I've known since I've been young, and I still have it, and I have many versions of it, and I had a version of it with this news. A version and aversion. I had some aversion too. But patterns, or these things that repeat in different conditions, are called sankhara in the Buddhist language. And it's a very interesting term, san, S-A-N, kara, K-A-R-A. Or Khara. It means that which has been put together, or really another way of like a literal sense of together making. It's not just a pattern on your own or out there in the world without you involved or without others involved. It's a together making sense. So I like to consider childhood patterns are made up together with our caregivers, within a family system, within a culture at a certain point of time. And it really takes this pattern out from solely being yours or the way you experience something, even though it can feel like that, especially with something as large as, for me, like a body sensation that comes with a pattern. It feels much more like mine when I can feel it in my body. But when this flight was canceled, it was like a flurry, what do we do now? How will we get there? Do we still go? A few expletives, a few, all of the stuff that comes with this type of bigger change. And for a few hours, I actually didn't think about anything and forgot about the alarm and shock, because this is another part of the pattern, is that I'm good in crisis. And I went into research and development. Can we? Will we? How we? What should we do? And once we finally considered all the options, we made the decision not to go. And we were exhausted. We had to go to bed for the next day. But a new plan emerged, and we decided to go to Santa Barbara for a smaller, intimate vacation. So we had really a nice time together. But I think back now on the language I was using and talking to myself about the event with others, and how much language shapes our experience. And we all grew up learning a language, and so we can speak to each other, and that languaging is a beginning of also these childhood patterns, how we talk about them to ourselves, how we talk about them to others. So this pattern of shock and alarm in this situation came with a kind of surprise and an awe that things worked out, and a kind of sense of mystery that, oh, I had the vacation of my dreams, actually, and I was very different than what was supposed to happen. So the alarm and shock aren't gone, but other things come with it. Other things have developed alongside that pattern. And remember, too, this was a good memory for me, is that childhood patterns are going to be played out with different people. not always our immediate families or our family of origin. We're going to have new people in there that have new sankharas of their own, so that they're not going to be the same. You're going to get different versions. So I feel that that's one reason it's so important to have Sangha friends who are cultivating the direction of curiosity and kindness. There's more opportunities for healing those patterns and those sankharas, and then we can take them back out into our lives. And we're making something together, right? We're making something different of these patterns by coming together, having them come up and reflecting on them in our meditation practice. So as I see it, these patterns evolve. They don't necessarily cease or end. Some parts of them may cease or end, but I see it more as a process of evolution and learning to trust that process of evolution and development. So I'm going to read a paragraph from the book I'm still reading called Sapiens. And I don't know if this goes directly. I'm kind of taking a little bit of a risk here, but this is another evolution that I think is important around language. And this is what he says. He promotes a theory that our unique language evolved as a means of sharing information about the world. But the most important information that people needed to know, that needed to be conveyed, was about humans, about other people, not necessarily about the lions and bison on the plains. Our language evolved as a way of gossip. Huh? But interesting to me, because according to this theory, Homo sapiens is primarily a social animal. Social cooperation is our key for survival and reproduction. It's not enough for individual men and women to know the whereabouts of those lions and bison. It's more important for them to know who in their band hates who's sleeping with who's honest, who's a cheat. Now, some of those apply to us, some of those don't. It is important to know who's sleeping with who in a Sangha because there's power dynamics. And we also have an ethical statement saying teachers don't sleep with students. So I kind of, took that in that direction. But the trajectory of what we started with as gossip, was a way to communicate. And then we're now in a tradition which talks about trying not to gossip, watching our speech, actually carefully cultivating the who sleeps with who hates who likes who, the kinds of natural inclinations that we have with communicating with each other, which are at times are important to stop a development of harm or to not increase hatred, but to increase understanding or kindness and knowing more conditions.